boys and girls. It's Diego with the beautiful Karina, my lovely prometida. And we're in the K1 visa hurry up and wait process, just like you guys. We're waiting for our MVC welcome letter from the National Visa Center in beautiful New Hampshire. Our NOA 1 letter is dated April 18th, 2022, and our NOA 2 letter is dated May 30th, 2023, which is a total of, for you guys that like to count days, doing the math, that's 407 days or 9,768 hours. If you want to count hours, we don't do that. We just wait it out from NOA 1 to visa in Karina's passport. Now, Karina is from beautiful Caracas, Venezuela, but she's a legal resident of Bogota, Colombia, and I live in the Panhandle of Florida, near Pensacola, north of Navarre Beach. And Navarre Beach is where we are going to get married. All our plans are in place. Captain Bill is our wedding officiant, and we've got the restaurant picked out for the reception. We're just waiting on the visa, just like you guys. But I'm getting lots of questions on what are the qualifications, what are the requirements for a K1 visa. So come on along, I'll give you a quick rundown. So before you fill out that form I-129F, that 13-page document, to request your beautiful future wife or husband, you got to meet some certain qualifications, certain requirements have to be met, okay, to qualify for the K1 visa. First of all, number one, you, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, you got to be a U.S. citizen. How do you prove you're a U.S. citizen? U.S. passport, your birth certificate, your naturalization certificate, your certificate of citizenship. You just got to prove you are a U.S. citizen, okay? Number two, you must be single, divorced, or widowed, okay? Each partner, you, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, and your beneficiary must be free to get married to each other legally, okay? Now, that does not mean that you are waiting for your divorce to get finalized, okay? You're in a divorce, and in 3 months, your divorce will be finalized by the judge. So you decide to file a K1 visa package before the divorce is finalized. What's going to happen? Your K1 visa is going to be denied, okay, once they match the dates up. So make sure you guys are free and able to marry each other. Divorced, with final divorce decrees, widowed, unfortunately, or single. And then, when you get ready to mail that K1 visa package off, you guys must prove to immigration at USCIS Service Center that your relationship is real, is valid. It's not a fraud. It's not for a immigration benefit, okay? You have to prove it with fantastic evidence, strong evidence that your relationship is real, okay? You've been on trips together. You've got evidence of plane tickets, on trips, bus tickets. Karina and I, we went to Cucuta, Colombia for vacation. I've got the plane tickets from Avianca to Cucuta. The hotel, we stayed at the Hilton Hotel in Cucuta. We went to Cartagena, Colombia on the west coast on the Caribbean Sea for a week's vacation. We stayed at the Ibis Hotel. I included the plane tickets from Bogota to Cartagena. The hotel receipt from the Ibis Hotel. Beautiful hotel. We got out on the 10th we were on the 18th floor looking at the Caribbean Sea. Fantastic. I included all the receipts from the hotel, and we went to the Castillo de Felipe. We went to the tallest point in Cartagena. I kept every single receipt, okay, and included it in the K1 visa package, showing that our relationship is valid. Now, with what I just said, that leads into this, okay? You must prove, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, beneficiaries, that you have met each other at least once within the past 2 years before you apply for the K1 visa. Okay? So if you met each other 2.5 years ago, you cannot apply for your K1 visa because the time has expired. You're going to have to get on a plane, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, go meet up again, and then apply for your visa within 2 years of meeting face to face. Okay? Now that you're going to read on YouTube channels, in different places, that there are exceptions to this rule if it's going to violate religious or cultural social norms. Okay? Trust me, you got to meet each other in person. The immigration officer will find a way around your exemption. Okay? So before you mail your K-1 visa package to immigration to the lockbox in Dallas, make sure you have met each other face to face within the past 2 years. Not 2 years and a month, 2 years. Okay? Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, Miss Beneficiary, Mr. Beneficiary, you must include in your K-1 visa package a letter from you, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, and a letter from you, Miss Beneficiary, Mr. Beneficiary, promising the U.S. government, Homeland Security, USCIS, that you will get married within 90 days. Okay? If your beneficiary does not speak a word of English, that's perfectly fine, but he or she must write his or her letter of intent to get married in his or her native language, and then you, Mr. Sponsor, Miss Sponsor, get it translated into English by a certified translation company. Okay? It will be a massive red flag for immigration if he or she, your beneficiary, writes his or her letter of intent to get married in English when she can't speak English. Immigration's going to ask, how did you do that? So make sure you listen to my advice, guys, and you will be successful. And include in the letter of intent to get married, you met each other within the past 2 years. You promised to marry each other within 90 days of her arriving or his arrival in the U.S., that you are both legally free and able to marry, and that you, Mr. Sponsor, you must state you are a U.S. citizen. And then your beneficiary will state in his or her letter the nationality of her country. Karina said she's a Venezuelan citizen living legally as a resident of Colombia. With that said, you must also include wedding plans. Remember, a K-1 visa is a request to bring your beneficiary to America to get married. So you got to have some kind of wedding plans in place at a minimum. You don't know the day of the wedding. You don't know the date of the wedding. You can't provide that information because you don't know. You don't have the visa yet, so you can't make that plan. But you can plan a wedding, right? You can go to the county courthouse and ask them what are the requirements to get married in your county or state. I recommend you email the county or the state government office and ask them, how do I get married here? Even if you know how, then that person will respond back to you, this is how you do it. That's the beginning of wedding plans, okay? Find somebody to marry you. Have them write an email to you. I'll be glad to marry you guys. Not a problem. Just let me know the day and the time. Okay? You don't know the day and the time, but they email that to you, so you got some kind of wedding plans. Include that in your K-1 visa package. Okay? Captain Bill is our wedding officiant. I've got like 5 or 6 months worth of email correspondence with him saying, yeah, we're just waiting on the visa. Thank you for being our wedding officiant. We're going to get married on Navarre Beach. Is that okay? That's okay. We got wedding plans. We got emails to the restaurant where we're going to get our reception at. Can we have a wedding reception here? Sure, they replied back to me. Sure. What day? We don't know yet. We're still waiting for the visa. Include that information in your K-1 visa package. Okay? A K-1 visa package is a plan to marry somebody. Okay? You, Mr. Sponsor, American citizen, you got to be working in America. Your job must be in the United States. Unless you're military, that's an exemption. But most of the time, you got to be domiciled in America. You got to have an address in the United States. You got to prove that you live in the United States. You can't be working overseas. You can't be working in Saudi Arabia, making all that tax-free money, and living in an apartment in Saudi Arabia, and then try to get a K-1 visa approved. You got to be living in the United States and working in the United States with tax returns showing that you meet minimum income requirements for the K-1 visa. Okay, now, at the embassy stage, you got to show you make 100%, above 100% of the minimum federal income requirements. Okay, that's what it says all over the place. But here's on the internet and at this place, that place, that place. I recommend that you submit a K-1 visa with 125% plus of the minimum federal guidelines before you submit it. Be it 125% plus, okay, $1,000+ above the minimum income requirements, just to cover yourself, to make sure you don't get that RFE, okay, for the joint sponsor, for proof of assets, and this and that, okay. So U.S. citizens who are sponsoring a beneficiary, you got to meet the income requirements for the K-1 visa. The adjusted gross income on most of your tax returns must equal to at least 100% of the federal poverty guidelines at the embassy interview. But I would say I recommend you disregard all that information and listen to Diego and have a minimum of 125. Be at 130% of the minimum income requirements before you file your K-1 visa, okay? Unless you have a joint sponsor. If you have a joint sponsor, include that joint sponsor. If you are at 100% plus, 110% of the minimum income requirements, please include a joint sponsor in your K-1 visa package. It will save you a headache in the future. Now, in all honesty, it's not necessary to include financial information in the K-1 visa when you mail it to the lockbox in Dallas. All this financial information will be provided by you, Mr. Sponsor, to your beneficiary for the face-to-face visa interview at the embassy. Okay? I'll repeat myself. Be at 125% plus, okay, before you file your K-1 visa to the lockbox. If you cannot meet that income, if you cannot be at 125%, even though it says 100%, if you can't meet that, get a joint sponsor and bring that joint sponsor I-134 form plus tax returns, etc., to the visa interview at the embassy. Okay, very, very important. All right. Now, this was a brief overview of the minimum qualifications, okay, to apply for a K-1 visa. And there's folks out there, the same-sex partners, okay? You are eligible to apply for a K-1 visa. No matter what the laws are in your beneficiary's country, there's some countries that don't recognize that, okay, and they create issues for you guys, okay? But the United States government and the K-1 visa package allows for same-sex marriage. So don't worry about being put into a failure mode or a denial mode. Just meet the minimum requirements that I just said, a minimum. Now, I'm not an immigration attorney. I do not give legal advice, zero. And I don't work for USCIS or the State Department, but I've been through the K-1 visa process twice, successfully so far, and a spousal visa, which didn't work out. Oh well, life goes on. Don't be a victim, be a victor, okay? You are allowed, by the way, 2 K-1 visa opportunities. I'm on my second opportunity. Thank you, U.S. government, for this opportunity. All right, now I do a live stream on 3 times a week to help you guys get through this process for free. Okay, free advice. Mondays at 7 p.m., Wednesdays at 7 p.m., and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Join me at the live stream, and I will get you through this K-1 visa process as stress-free as possible with minimum expense, okay? It's free. Soon your beneficiary, he or she, will have her K-1 visa in her passport, flying on an airplane to the United States of America, okay, where you can start your lives. Karina and I send you our best wishes. We send you all of our best wishes for this process, and we will see you at the live stream.
Hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista, baby.